Life is full of surprises. I met Jack on the internet. I was living in St. Louis at the time, and my daughter had just gotten married and moved to Australia, so I was very lonely. I went into an online chat room just for the company, and that's where Desperado sauntered up for a chat. Now, he was very different than the others, and he just seemed more genuine, open, and he was really funny. So we chatted several times, and we found out we had a lot in common. We loved the same movies, the same music, and we both loved alligators. So one night he asked if he could call me, and I said yes. He calls me up, and as soon as I heard his voice, I knew he was the one. I knew he was my soulmate. Don't ask me how I knew, I just did. We talked pretty much every night. And then one night he says to me, I'm coming to St. Louis for a conference. You want to meet in person? I freaked. I'm like, oh my God, what if he doesn't like me? Or what if I don't like him? Or what if it messes this up? I mean, I'd been open with him from the start. I told him I was fat, and he said, me too. And I told him I had purple spiky hair, and he said, me too. And then he said, I don't care. I thought, if I really believe he's my soulmate, I have to trust this. So I said yes. On our first date, we had dinner at a swanky restaurant. And one of the first things I noticed that he did was take his shoes off under the table. So I took mine off. Now, before you think anything kinky, that's just another thing we had in common is we had hot feet. So we had a great time. I mean, we chatted, we talked, we laughed, and even at one point he leaned over and says, you see that table of old men over there? I said, yeah. He says, well, they're really spies. They're not little innocent old men after all. And they're making up their next secret mission. I said, oh, right. I just started laughing because my daughter and I used to sit and people watch and make up stories all the time. So I thought, oh my God, this is my kind of guy. It was just so comfortable and so easy being with him. So as we're heading out of the restaurant, I'm following him and headed out for the entrance of the restaurant. And about halfway through, I realized there's something terribly wrong. I have my shoes on the wrong feet. So I can't change them here in the middle of the restaurant, so I'm going to have to wait till we get out there. And so embarrassed as ever, I said, hold on, I have to change my shoes. I put them on the wrong feet. And we both looked down, and we both just busted out laughing. And honestly, I think he liked me even more after that. I looked up in his beautiful blue eyes, and I thought, at this moment, everything is right with the world. Jack went on back home to Maryland after that weekend. That was the end of March of 2000. On October 1st, I found myself climbing into a moving truck with Jack at the helm, and I moved to Maryland. Yay! We were having the time of our lives. We were happy, healthy, and on Christmas Day actually, of 2003, I'm opening my gift from Jack, and he gets down on one knee and says, will you marry me? It was one of the happiest days of my life. We decided to get married on March 28th, which was actually the anniversary of when we had met. And so we had everything ready to go, or planned, everything was ready. On the Wednesday before, on March 24th, Jack wakes me up from deep sleep early that morning and says, I need you to take me to the hospital. I'm bleeding from my rectum. I said, what? Bleeding from your... I didn't even know we did that. Bleeding from your rectum? I don't get it. And I even had this small little thought of, is this some really strange way to get out of the wedding? But then he stood up, and he wasn't bleeding. He was gushing. So I jerked out of bed, grabbed my clothes. I'm looking all over for something, anything to contain the blood, and I thought, duh, my feminine pads. So I blurted out, always with wings. And he said, no, I'm not wearing wings. I'm know he wasn't kidding. I had to cut him off. I will say I did get a little thrill of him having to wear my feminine pads. But I get him to the hospital, and they admitted him. The nurses are getting him ready, all settled into his room, so I stepped out into the hall for a minute. The next thing I heard was, "Help me, somebody help me." And I'm like, that's coming from his room. So I ran in. They have left him sitting on the toilet by himself. At this point, he had lost a lot of blood. So I said, Jack, I'm here. And he just sat there. He didn't respond. And then I looked at him, I'm like, I'm here. But he wasn't. His eyes, he was just staring straight ahead, no response, no batting his eyes, nothing. He wasn't in there. I started screaming, "Help me, somebody help me, please help me." And I start pushing the buttons on the nurses thing to call him, and they come running in. They got him off the toilet, put him in a chair. I'm standing behind the chair, and they're doing, Mr. George, and doing all the smelly stuff and trying to revive him every way that they can. And I'm just standing there watching this and going, it's just all in like slow motion and really fast, all at the same time. And I heard him say, "There's no blood pressure, there's no pulse." And I'm like, no blood pressure, no pulse, this must be a dream, this can't be real. And then I saw the nurse pick up the phone and say, "Code blue, room 128. Code blue. Code blue? That means he's dead. That means they have to come in with those things and hit his heart and try to revive him, but he's dead." And I just got freaked out, and I leaned over and I said, "Don't you leave me." And he said, "I'm not going anywhere." I swear I hadn't been breathing the whole time. In fact, I don't think any of us, including Jack, had been breathing most of the time. So I'm like, oh my God, he's alive, but he was dead. Well, they moved him to ICU, and the doctor came in and told us that he had diverticulitis, and he had lost several pints of blood, so he had to have a transfusion. And so Jack asked me to call our pastor and have him come up and marry us in the hospital. I said, no, because that meant he knew he was going to die again. But I did what he said. And there in his hospital bed with transfusion and IV tubes sticking out of his arms, we were married. The good thing is, the best surprise of all, is that Jack didn't die. In fact, we just celebrated our 11th wedding anniversary this year.